Thank you, Daniel, for sharing your story, and your success is obviously probably a product of your parents and how they parented you, right? So I'm a parent of 2 children, so and you have a very interesting perspective because you kind of were raised in the Eastern or Asian culture,
Yeah.
and you have some exposure to Western culture of how to raise children.
Yes.
Which to some is very different than the Eastern culture. So I'm curious how you raise your children and why you chose it, and would you do it differently now that you have the results?
Interesting question, and I have a very opinionated answer to that because I shared that with many friends already. Regarding raising children, I believe in what I call deregulation. Okay, in my experience with the way I was, my education, because I left home when I was 15 to go to boarding school, and both my kids actually did the same thing, right, to boarding school. So my experience and my theory is that as a parent, you really, for each child, you really only have a 15-year job. You do not have a lifetime job. Right? A lot of young parents get confused by that, and they struggle because in the early years when they're baby, they want to they want to continue to live life single or well, with no children, and they kind of struggle with, oh, I can't vacation just like before, whatever. But the point is that when you decide to become a parent, you actually sign on to a 15-year job, okay? And then you have to change all your perspective and all your priority for the 15 years. But it's only 15 years, right? And after 15 years, then you can go back. Like when we were empty nested, then we can do it, right? But a lot of people are not thinking clearly about that. So I think then, because of that, I put a lot of emphasis on the first 15 years, being a parent. Now, the American or the Western way is that you want to be their best friend. I said, no, I want to be their best father. I'm not going to be their best friend when they're 15, right? You may want to consider that when they get a little bit older, but I think a lot of people was the best friend when they're young and then become a father when they're older. I think that's wrong. So that's how so that means the first 13 years, deregulation means everything is no. There's no discussion. So whatever I say goes. I may be wrong, but unfortunately I told my kids, you were born in this household, too bad, you're not lucky. I mean, if you want, you can go and move somewhere else, but of course they're not going to do that, right? But you can't say that when they're 18 because they will move out. Right? So the thing is that I'm not right. I'm being honest. I'm not necessarily right, but then you're my son's daughter, so you got to follow the rules. And as they get a little bit older, then you deregulate, right? So and I have been very blessed. Right? Both kids went to Harvard. Both my children did. And they're all in the family business. And they volunteer to be in the family business, which is a blessing. Because a lot of kids don't really want to do it. But not only that, my son-in-law is in the business. Again, it's not they met in the business, but he was an architect and decided that he wants to head the design team for the company. And my future daughter-in-law has also joined the company. So it's I don't know what it is. I think it's blessing. I mean, I'm not really conscious about that, but sometimes maybe less is more. Again, it's all up to the big boss up there. I mean, I just have been very blessed. I mean, it is strange, but that's why I'm saying, I mean, look at the Olympic swimmer. That doesn't mean that you can work hard. I mean, sometimes there's people that are just in a very special situation. So that's why if I go really too much detail on the how, I may not be very, because it's not really relevant in the sense of the how, but it's the principle that's more important. I also state certain principles in the beginning, actually, regarding that. You can tell that I'm pretty verbal and pretty deep thinking in terms of very precise about what I want from the kids. So early on, I told them that for a Chinese family, kids will have this burden, right? They will join the family business. So I sort of did, but then subsequently I didn't, right? So using my own experience, I told my son and daughter, actually, you know what? There's absolutely no pressure. And in fact, I actually encouraged them to start their own business, which is sort of what I did. I said, you get more satisfaction out of that. And I encouraged that. And I said, but the flip side is that just because your last name is Fong does not mean that you can mosey into the company and become a vice president either, right? So there's a flip side. So I said, but of course, if they want to join, I'm going to say no. And in fact, they're doing really fantastically well. So it's a little bit, I don't know, I've never heard it from other parents, let's just put it this way. So, but maybe, yes.